Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our SRC meeting. It is May 7th, 2026. Start time is 10:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Brittany Tarver. I'm the project manager here at RSA. I will be filling in for Anjali McGugan, who is out of the office today. And I believe we usually start by just doing quick intros, or if not, we can, welcome and intros will be the first agenda point. So we can start in the room here and then we'll go for online.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel McKinley. I am the policy analyst with RSA.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shannon Austin. I'm the RSA Deputy Director. Glad to be in the house.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe Peoples. I am a staff attorney at Disability Rights DC and a client assistance program advocate for clients of RSA.
I'm Michelle Johnson, Aussie Adult
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cedric Rivers. I'm the Director of Human Resources Operations at JW Marriott.
I know Deborah Russell stepped away, and I think you said Allison stepped away for a second as well.
I'm here. This is Allison White. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Developmental Disabilities Council, which is the position I'm on with SRC. I also have a sibling who receives RSA services.
Everyone, my name is Lucas Lefevre. I am a vocational rehabilitation specialist with RSA.
Did I miss anyone? All right, next on our agenda, we'll start with committee updates. So we'll start with the Consumer Empowerment and Advocacy Committee. Any updates?
So Susan is the head of that committee and probably has more detailed updates than I do, but I can, share what we've been talking about and working on. We are still in the process of scheduling our next meeting, but we have been creating a customer service survey for RSA clients and have been trying to figure out the best time to distribute that survey, how to do it, to get more feedback. It's a pretty short survey just to get more feedback about, how clients are feeling, what are different areas that we could be focused on in improving client satisfaction as the SRC committee. I think we had wanted to distribute it through RSA, through the counselors. I think the most recent update I have is that RSA doesn't want to do that right now because there's kind of a background client satisfaction thing going on. So I think as the consumer advocacy agency, we're looking at maybe other ways of distributing the survey and talking to more consumers. But that's mostly what we've got going on.
I did talk to Anjali about that survey. She definitely sounded excited about it. I think what she was telling me is that we are doing some updates to our just intake team. We have a new intake supervisor, our intake kind of like SOPs here, and wanting to get that in place prior to distributing a survey where potentially procedures could be changed midway through the survey to get the most accurate data of how our clients are feeling after the IPE development. So she definitely sounded really excited for it to happen. I think she was saying that she just wanted to make sure that we had our strategies and SOPs in place prior to doing that for consistency for the client and then also consistency for the data.
Yeah, and I think we haven't had a chance to meet and discuss that in depth yet. We've been having a little bit of trouble scheduling a meeting. So that's great to hear. I do think it would make sense for it to go out from RSA counselors if possible. And I think we were talking about Susan and I coming to an all-staff meeting at, the end of one of the months and talking about it at some point.
That last again, you were cutting out just a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. It could be a combination.
Yeah, we were talking about Susan and I coming to an all-staff meeting for RSA counselors to talk about it at some point. I know everyone would be really super excited to see me, but it would just be about the survey. So that's basically what we've got going on. We're hopefully meeting next week to maybe iron out some of those timing things.
That's awesome. She was also saying maybe there's potential opportunity for incentivizing surveys too.
Yes, that's another thing that I think we will need to talk about as the SRC, because I think the SRC technically has funds for things. We don't use them, but I think they exist in a pot somewhere. But we did think that it would be helpful to have some sort of raffle for like a $25 gift card to something if you complete the survey, just to kind of incentivize people to fill it out so we can get responses. But if that's not possible, oh, and there's Susan. She'll have to watch the recording later to see if I've done this justice. We were just talking about the consumer advocacy group. Susan, I've done my best.
I trust in you.
Yes. If you watch it back later and it's inaccurate, we'll talk about it offline. No. Yeah, so I think we were just talking about the idea of having these little gift cards to enter into a raffle to help incentivize people to fill out the survey. So I think that's something we'll need to look at within the SRC bylaws or how that works. I think Andy had an understanding of it whenever funds came up in the past.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and if, the SRC can't come up with the funds, I think Disability Rights DC would be fine to put in a couple $25 gift cards. The funds will come from somewhere, but just to get more people excited about filling it out. It's short, but okay, Allison, maybe we can talk about what those rules would be.
Chloe, hi, this is Michelle. Are there any conferences coming up for which there may be a fee that they could receive the scholarship to go to the conference, like DDS or RSA? Is anybody having anything coming up? You could say, hey, survey, get a scholarship to attend the conference. I don't know. I was just putting that out there. Gift cards, possible or permissible. Is there something else going on for which there may be another activity that's allowable? Just making a suggestion.
That's an interesting idea. So for like RSA clients to attend some sort of conference or something.
Yes. Is there anything like that? Does DDF? I mean, you guys used to have an event. Remember when? I apologize.
No. I think there are generally conferences. I don't know if any of them are have a fee attached to it. I know there's the employment summit, obviously every year. There's a tech summit, but I think generally they're free to attend.
And what about swag? Does DDSR say any swag? Like,
I've seen some pretty cool RSA swag.
Yeah, so maybe swag bag. You know what I'm saying? So that wouldn't cost anything. So
That's an interesting idea. That's a good idea.
This is Shannon. So does the Employment First committee do anything of that type? I know in Pennsylvania, they used to do like an annual conference. I don't know if they still do it, but that was something that they would bring in, just best practices on Employment First.
Yeah, this is Allison with the DD Council. We're planning to do an Employment First Summit again this October. We are also going to be starting a new 5-year state plan as of October 1st. Doing some kind of annual summit could still be a part of that. It will be for this coming year. But there's also, we're still finalizing the plan. So it's going to be open for public comment starting May 12th. And, we're still working it out and invite people to comment on things because there could be some more flexibility on how we engage with Employment First efforts. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, if you need any support from me or me to do anything, just let me know.
I believe there are some additional folks who popped on virtually. If you haven't introduced yourself, please do. Say that again, I'm sorry. I think I see Berta, did you come off mute? Would you like to introduce yourself? Did anyone else pop on?
I came on late. I'm happy to introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Brooks, Chief Innovation Officer at RCM of Washington.
Nice to see you, Susan. All right, next update would be our Policy Planning and Review Committee.
That is me again. And Lucas. So if I, get anything wrong this time, please chime in. But I did have notes for this one. So, the policy committee, we have reviewed the RSA policy and procedure on internal controls. We've been reviewing it over the past few months because we were seeking some more information from the contract administration team. Thinking about this policy and procedure, we wanted to see if there was a way to maybe put something in about contracts being in the system when the new fiscal years roll around, because every time there's a new fiscal year, new authorizations are needed. And for things like post-secondary education, that's a big time crunch. And in the past, CAP has gotten a lot of calls about delayed funds for that. So we were trying to look and see if that was something that could be, added into the policy, kind of how that worked. I think what we got from the contract administration team is that there is an internal policy of having those contracts in 2 weeks prior to the fiscal year close, and that it's went well with this new system transfer, having the contracts in a good amount of time. So we didn't have any comments or suggestions other than looking at that. We did request more information just to continue to look at the situation. I think we requested the percentage of contracts that were loaded into the system by October 1st, 2025. And then want to look at the same information for this upcoming fiscal year change, just to see if there's anything else that we could, comment on as the policy committee. But that's basically what we've been working on. And Rachel did an incredible job with these policy and procedures. They were very intricate, and there were a lot of comments back and forth from a lot of different parties. And we talked about it in the policy committee, but wanted to share it to the whole group too, that Rachel did a really incredible job with the policy and procedure. And Rachel, I believe that I was supposed to send you an email that said that we didn't have any other comments, and I forgot to send that. And I will do so now, so that we both have it in our emails or when I forget in the future.
This is for the Department of Ed. Yeah. Just to kind of chime in, we are internally working on the RSA case transfer. I have a couple of additional edits that I need to make with that, and get back to Dr. Alston, for her review. And then we can, I'll bring it back to the SRC for us to, the policy committee for us to, talk through those changes, as well as with the intake procedure. Yes, there are still some additional things that need to be addressed with the system update and making sure that the correct forms and terminology is right within that procedure as well too. I know that the intake policy is fine, as well as we went through that, as also the case transfer policy too. The policy committee went through that. Give me the due process policy. I need to follow up with Andy about those steps. Please remind me again what our goal is with that.
Yeah, so that was in review, but last year, I think it was around October, when we had first been reviewing it, I brought up that it would be great to have a mediation option for clients that didn't involve filing at the Office of Administrative Hearings. And Andy said that that was in the works, that they were doing some sort of memorandum of maybe an MOU with the Office of Administrative Hearings of how to do mediation, having this separate mediation option that clients can use without having to file a complaint at the Office of Administrative Hearings. So he said that was in process, so we kind of put that on pause because we'd want to put updated information in if it's in process when it's finalized.
Yeah, so the due process policy is still lingering because I need the updates. I need to know where we're at with getting that MOU memorandum in place and what that process entails to put that information in the policy. So, yeah. Sorry for interjecting.
No, it's great.
All right. Anything else from policy planning?
I don't think so. We're eventually going to take a look at the bylaws. It's been on the back burner for a while. It's probably going to happen in the next couple months. So.
Can I bring up a policy issue? It's not connected to this policy group, but I think it is something that you all should know about and something that we can bring back once we've kind of come to a final conclusion. But under WIOA, the Workforce Investment Council is responsible for developing policies associated with WIOA regulations. And one that is up for review is our supportive service policy. Now, I know every department, every agency may have, or every program may have a different policy around supportive services. But this Friday, tomorrow, the American Job Center partners, which are made up of those agencies that are required to be part of WIOA, are going to have a discussion around modernizing supportive services, and what does that look like? Meaning, typically there is a cap on the amount of supportive service dollars that individuals can receive on any given year, and the kinds of supportive services that would be offered have been pretty narrow: transportation, clothing, that sort of thing. But we're looking at, potentially expanding, looking at mental health support, looking at, other things that may come up, access to technology, connectivity, those sort of things as part of supportive service. And so there will be hopefully someone there from DDS represented to provide some input around what are the typical kinds of support services that your customers are usually looking for. What kinds of things get in the way of your customers being able to get to that next level in their career, process or their education process. And so before we put pen to paper, we want to make sure that we're getting all the best thinking from our agency partners so that we ensure that all stakeholders and all customers are represented when we're thinking about what their needs are in order to mitigate barriers to employment.
Ms. Russell, what time is this meeting tomorrow?
So the meeting tomorrow it starts at 9 o'clock. There will be someone, I believe, Miss Anjali is part of that group. Ricky Wright is part of that group. So they should be there, or hopefully will be there for that meeting. This is a meeting of the American Job Board. We meet every other week anyway, as a team.
Deborah, you guys I think you told me you guys had an event in September. Is that still happening?
Yes, it is. And I know I got an email from someone who expressed their interest in being part of the planning. And absolutely, I'm happy to. We are really just at the infancy stage of kind of determining what the theme is going to be and what the cadence is going to look like because we're at MLK Library. So, just looking at the space and figuring out what we can deliver. One of the things that, we're going to be, really hyper focused on is kind of three main themes. One is that we really need to think about and execute a regional approach to the work that we do. We know that expanding opportunities to residents beyond the district, they're doing it anyway, right? They're commuting out to Maryland and Virginia. So we're looking at some specific areas like those that touch our borders, Prince George's County, Montgomery County, in Maryland, including Anne Arundel County, and then Northern Virginia. And that looks like things like reciprocity agreements with training providers so that we expand training opportunities beyond DC. That looks like more opportunities for our customers to take advantage of things that are happening that support workforce, in those areas. So one of the areas that we're going to talk about is, how do we strengthen our partnerships with our regional partners and having them lead a lot of the workshops so that we can learn about what other areas are doing, with respect to, programmatic efforts. The other area that we're going to be looking at is the fact that our customers are changing. We're not just looking at individuals who come with lots of barriers and may be new to the workforce. We're talking about mid-career workers and older workers, and workers that are going to be staying in the workforce longer that may need to look at new career opportunities, look at what's happening in the federal government. So we're going to be talking about that issue as well. And what does that mean to become a 21st century workforce system? And what kind of changes need to happen in order for that to come to fruition? And then we're going to do some work focusing on us as workforce professionals, and what do we need to know and what do we need to do differently as a workforce professional, and doing some upskilling in that area. So those are kind of the high level themes. We certainly have made space for us learning about the populations that we serve, and what do we need to know and what do we need to do differently. We'll focus on the fact that there are safety nets that potentially could disappear in the next year. Medicare, we're looking at changes in TANF, SNAP. We may no longer have a Job Corps. we may no longer have a C-step. What does that mean? They are going to be part of now that workforce pool of workers that are going to be looking for work and have been used to having a support system that is no longer going to be there. This is going to have an adverse effect on all of our agencies. And what are we doing to prepare for that? So those are some of the issue areas that we'll be focusing on. And we will be reaching out to our agency partners for their thoughts and ideas as we further, develop the actual program for the summit.
Deborah, this is Shannon Austin. I wanted to see if it's possible. I know we have representation, but based on what you're telling me, with all the change across multiple systems, there's a huge, in my mind, a policy impact with that. I would love to see if we can add Rachel McKinley to the conversation so that she can look through her lens, and then, from the RSA standpoint, be thinking about how that impacts the workforce system, not only from RSA, but across the whole system as we look at these things holistically.
She is more than welcome to attend. Most definitely. We will be at MLK Library. I'm sorry?
I know all the meetings may not have to do with policy, but I think it may be a good lens to kind of have in the room to look through that, and maybe the implications across multiple systems, since it is a one-stop, and there, sometimes we have policies that are butting up against each other or eliminating. So I just think it might be a good add to the team.
Absolutely. Let me drop in the chat the location and the time. And absolutely, I want as many people under the tent, if you will, so that we get this right, because this policy, as you said, will affect multiple demographics, and we want to make sure that we're representing that correctly. So more than welcome to attend. Yes.
Thank you so much. Whenever you put that information in, and also I can reach out to you via email too.
Okay.
You're kind of in and out, and I don't know if it's our service. It's probably multiple things that's going on. But just so I could just get all of the details, because I definitely would like to see what's going on, because it definitely is going to have an impact on policy and how we're able to deliver services to our clients. Not even just at DDS, but just across the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving forward to the nominating committee.
Hi, this is Allison, and I'm not sure if Michelle may have something to say on this. I was out of the office when the last meeting happened, and I think, Michelle, you were the only one that was there. So I apologize for that. So I don't have an update, and I need to reconnect with the committee on what we need to do next. I know at the beginning there was a question about voting members and quorum. I can also connect with Chloe on that. So my apologies. I am delinquent on the nominating committee duties.
Hey, Allison, can you also add me to the meetings for the nominating committee? I'm on that one too.
Absolutely. I know Charlisa was working hard to corral us, and I think the meeting got scheduled at a time I wasn't even in the office, because I probably didn't respond to the doodle poll. So I will try to regroup on all that and make sure to include you, Brittany.
Thank you so much.
Worries at all. Worries at all.
Sorry, what did you say, Michelle? You cut in and out for a second on us.
I was telling her no worries at all. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay. Things happen. We all got a lot going on right now. I knew we'll meet and catch up and if it's okay, can I ask Deborah Russell a follow-up question to the last thing she said?
Yes.
Thank you. Deborah, do you know about the president's, those programs that slated zeroed out in the president's skinny budget, which are the ones you mentioned, CSEP, Potomac Job Corps, even us too. We owe a Title II. No money for us in that budget.
Yes.
You know, when is the final decision going to be made?
Well, that is part, all of this is part of the big, beautiful bill. And some of it is also part of the reauthorization of WIOA. The tea leaves, and this is just Deborah Russell, so please don't consider it news, but the tea leaves is that it's not going to pass in November, and that it's likely going to be an ongoing issue into next year. I know that, for instance, Job Corps still has funding through June, I think, of next year. And so it could very well be possible that we're talking about an early next year or next budget cycle. But it's so hard to tell. Just between us in this room, we just recently uploaded the mid-cycle state plan, so it is uploaded and done in the time frame that it was required. The mid-cycle plan is the every 2 years of a 4-year plan. We are required to kind of go back in and look and see if there have been any changes to the economy or programs or demographics or any of that. So it's like an update. This one was particularly was much different because when we originally submitted the state plan, it was prior to the Trump administration. And then with the new administration, we got a lot of guidance, more than I have ever experienced in my many, many years in workforce, about what they wanted to see in the state plan. And interestingly enough, we got some feedback even about highlighting certain programs that were targeted to certain demographics. They wanted to see more majority language, like, this is open to everyone. So we're seeing, clearly the Department of Labor leaning in much more than I've ever seen before when it comes to these plans. And the kinds of things that they're looking for are very different than what they had looked for in the past. So I say all that to say that, on the one hand, you could say, things aren't, we don't anticipate things moving that quickly. And then they can turn on a dime because that's what this administration has shown to do. So I will keep everyone posted as I learn anything new. We do have a couple of Department of Labor meetings coming up. And they want us to ask specific questions around, what's in our plan and, any other questions or concerns that we may have. So I'm happy to bring that back, but that's the best I know today.
Thank you, Deborah. Moving on to Media and Public Awareness Committee. Any updates there?
Everyone, I'm part of that. And we have not had any formal meetings as we do not have anybody to chair it at this moment. I think they're still searching.
Okay, thank you so much. I know Charlisa just kind of wrote me a note saying just to remind us all to work together in scheduling our meetings moving forward. She has a new role now. I think the director will give more updates on that. So when it comes to our like smaller committees, not the SRC, not the big group scheduling, but like our smaller committees, she just wants us to work together to schedule those meetings a little bit more independently. But that also may include making sure we all have each other's email addresses. They're usually always an invite. And also maybe we can get together a list of like who's in which group, just in case folks forget or want to join additional groups. So that was just kind of her note that moving forward, she'd like us to be a little bit more independent with that.
We can probably move them to the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll figure out administration or admin solution
like
here too.
Yeah. I still want to continue that to see like when people are available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm next with the comprehensive statewide needs assessment update. So the comprehensive statewide needs assessment is a required assessment for the agency. It is usually done by a third-party contractor who will solicit feedback and information from our consumers, folks who aren't our consumers, our providers, and develop a comprehensive assessment of how we're doing. So it runs over a 3-year span. I believe this year we're doing FY23, FY24, and FY25 year to date is our survey date range. And where we are in the process, we're really still just at the beginning stages. Our contractor was working through some like contractual things. So caused a little bit of a pause in us actually starting the assessment. Right now, our contractor is in conversation with kind of his subcontractor, who is a VR tax certified organization, San Diego State University, and honing down how they want us to present our data to them. We haven't had a kickoff yet. Ideally, we would have a kickoff in the next few weeks. Again, once all of the contract stuff is hammered down on their end, and then we can have a kickoff meeting to kind of give us more of a game plan of how San Diego State plans to facilitate the assessments. Because of where we are with this time frame, we are realistically looking at what we call a 5-month sprint. So ideally, everything to be done in around 5 months. So that gives the compiling of the data in, maybe a month and a half, the analyzing, and then the development of the assessment within around 5 months. So that's kind of where we are. Nothing really has started. We have not had a kickoff, but hopefully by our next SRC meeting, I'll have more information to share. And for the folks who reached out, we will always give the San Diego State University the contact information of our SRC, as they are great resources to tap into when it comes to this assessment. So again, once we get more of a green light, I'll be able to develop a list of our internal and external stakeholders for San Diego State to work with to gather any additional information and needs for the completion of the assessment. But just want to see, did anyone have any questions or concerns about that? I am the main point of contact for this project. So if you do think of anything, please just let me know. Again, we haven't started at all. So we're still, in the planning phase. I did see something in the chat. So let me just see here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, okay, no problem. Okay.
What's that she said?
Well, I'm sorry,
That's the address.
this is the address of the event.
Okay. Okay.
Director updates is next.
Okay. So a lot of stuff going on in RSA, so just bear with me. So I have a small list of things I want to cover. We have several new employees within RSA over the last few months. Wanted to give you up. So there's some internal movement and we have new staff come in. So we had, and I probably told you this prior at the last meeting, but if I haven't, just bear with me. Danae Williams stepped into the case management project manager role for Informed. She was previously doing as a VR specialist. We also had a new hire, Taylor Bell. She is currently an employment coordinator. So we currently are up to date and have all the employment coordinators within the units now. We also had two VR training specialists, Latoya Jenkins. We're excited to have her. She started towards the end of February, March. Then we had two VR transition specialists that were onboarded in April, Amanda Nance and Nakenya Phillips. They are part of the transition units upstairs. As Brittany said just a moment ago, Charlisa Payne went from being Andy's executive assistant, and she has stepped into the role as the Randall Shepherd manager. So it's been exciting I've been working with her already, but now she's stepping in that role, and she started really Monday of this week. And then the man on the call, Lucas Favor, stepped into Kia's old position as the transition project manager. I'm excited to have him to be a part of the transition leadership team with that. I mean, so kudos to you, sir. Cassia Long was a counselor within House, and now she is going to be stepping in once she gets back from vacation. Didn't she go to Poland?
Somewhere. Yeah, I think
she went to Poland.
Yeah.
Yes, I think she went to Poland. So I call her my long lost cousin because I'm 30% Polish. And so she is stepping into the supervisory VR specialist role. And then we had two more transition specialists that started this week. Kendra Wilder and Keisha Jones. And I just met them. I think I met them once this week. So looking forward to them, doing transition work and moving in the school district. And then we also finally hired a VR assistant, because I've been without assistance since I've been here, Lakedia Edwards. So we'll work with her to try to triage and make sure that we get some of the meetings on the calendar for all of us on the subcommittee work, and just need to loop her into some of that conversation. Another thing I wanted to update you on was the aspiring professionals. So this will be the 5th cohort that we've had with the aspiring professionals program. It is a 6-month program that we have that allows clients that are working with RSA to get employment with federal, private, and nonprofit employers. This year, we're going to allow for 30 participants to potentially go through the program. It was scheduled to start this week, but it had to be bumped back additional week. But it's for those students that just recently college graduates, or those that are new to their career, to have an opportunity to work at least 6 months in these placements. And then Sylvia, who is really the point in kind of helping to make sure that we have the MOA in place with DOES to facilitate this, because we are paying these individuals. They're working 32 hours a week. They recently added a job readiness training element to the front end of the 6 months, which is amazing, because as we all know, some of those soft skills and things we need in order to be successful in the workplace are necessary. So that we're having that training on the front end of that training to work with individuals to get them ready. And that's everything from formal computer instructions, employment related counseling and case management, guidance, everything that they're going to need to know to be successful in these roles. A lot of them are administrative in offices and things because it is government, but we're excited that we were able to expand it this year. I think prior years we had about 15. This year we're going to have about 30. Hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have a full head count of how many people went into the program, and hopefully as we go through this, hopefully we have some permanent placements out of this program with this group cohort. So that is real excited about that. We also had an opportunity as an agency to send several to the CSAVR conference, which is the Council for State Vocational Rehab Service organization, which is a nonprofit that really kind of works with all the VR systems across the United States and brings really best practices and things to us. So it was very well attended. The conference also butts up against the National Council of the Blind Conference. So it's in the same place. There's some crossover. We met a lot of folks from different states, so it was a great networking opportunity. And because we were the host state, we had the ability to get a few extra in for free since we help with registration and things like that. And it gave the staff an opportunity to really network at those conferences. With that being said, we are planning to have a lunch and learn May 27th from 1 to 2:30. So we will definitely try to share that information. We're going to have like just a small informal like roundtable of the staff that went to talk through some of the things that we heard. They talked big picture, of course. There's been conversations about from the federal level where RSA is going to be moved from out of the Department of Education. And, you know, they have kind of narrowed it down to the Department of Labor and HHS. And so I think they're leaning more towards DOL. And so there was also, because we had a panel of folks from Department of Education, DOL, and they were just talking through some of the priorities of Trump and this current administration on some things that they want to do. There was also several breakout sessions where we had an opportunity to kind of look at sector-based service delivery models that were successful. They talked about technology, especially on the blindness side. They did a data comparison of between the blindness program and the general VR program. And there was a presentation on entrepreneurship. A lot of pre-ets was presented at that conference, even if it wasn't labeled pre-employment transition services. So we're just going to talk through that to talk about key takeaways, things that we've seen, things that we to share, just the experience that we had, and maybe key takeaways that we want to try to implement here in the district, best practices or things that we want to just explore. That we need to implement across the agency to make it better for the customers and the staff that we serve in the district. And then last and final, oh no, I got two more things. The next thing is was awarded recently the NEON grant. So we have won the grant previously. But this grant is really focused around competitive integrated employment and working with co-diagnosis disabilities with mental health. And And so we already are working with the Department of Behavioral Health. And part of the initiative in the NEON grant, we're allotted a certain amount of subject matter expert hours that we're able to utilize for things that we want to implement here on the ground in DC. With that being said, our proposal talked about working with people that have mental health issues and increasing or coordinating services across programs and developing a job retention strategy across DC. So with that, we're looking for support on how to engage with employers concerning hiring individuals with disabilities. We're trying to strengthen our current infrastructure that we have in coordination of services with DDH. We're hoping to develop a job retention policy here in DC so that, and my hope is, even though I know it's focused in the space of mental health and drug and alcohol and dual diagnosis, that we're able to expand that with the job retention policy. In Pennsylvania, we would do retention type cases all day long. So we know that there's a requirement on in RSA or the regs in the second and fourth quarter that people are maintaining employment longer in that second and fourth quarter. So it's not 90 days and we're out of the picture. We want long-term retention, but there's also there's some level of retention that can be done working directly with employers. So employers really become the customer on how to retain staff, but really also educating them on how to work with individuals with mental health and things like that with retention also. So we're hoping to kind of work through that and get all the technical support that we need with making sure that we can develop a policy to support that and have best practices and making sure that we're supporting not only the customer coming through the door, but also the employer as they're working with folks. And it could be too that the employer is getting in touch with us to where they may have a staff member that has mental health or developmentally delayed or whatever, and they're coming in and saying, hey, I need support. And we may train them, but how do we help and begin to do applications with employers so we can help people maintain employment? So we're not coming in after the picture when so they don't have to come with us unemployed. We can kind of help remediate that as an agency to make sure that people are able to maintain employment, especially if there's discipline involved, so that they can maintain that. And try to remediate that as much as we can. So excited about the NEON grant and the implications of where we can go with employment and in this space. And then the last thing, just wanted to give you just a small update with, we recently brought in the VR TAC, which is the Voc Rehab Technical Assistance Center. We had them come in January. Since then, we've had a handful of meetings that we've had. We have one scheduled, I think, for tomorrow. But we're really utilizing them in the expertise level that is there. The Randall Shepherd program has connected with them and just making sure that we have policies and manuals and things so that we can begin to update a lot of the policies that are in place. So that to make it easier to manage the program, because it's small, but it's a lot of work. So the policies and procedures and SOPs help us to kind of make sure that we have some guardrails on the program and everyone is very clear on expectation. And then, it's just time. It's been a while since those policies have been updated. We are also gleaning from some of the community of practice from when they initially came. That was given out to a lot of the management team. So they're linking in whether it's fiscal, Randall Shepherd, or like the NTAC folks. So trying to strengthen in the transition community and what is going on in that space. With the meeting that's happening on Friday, that is really working with Rachel Anderson in particular, with Brittany and Danae, and our Andy
In person.
and Herson, who's on the data team, to really begin to look in our case management system so that we can identify areas that we need to improve. You know, how are we tracking it? Are we tracking it? Are there areas where, you know, we want to make sure that we're capturing everything and all the work that we're doing here within RSA. So that, you know, everything from MSG, credentialing, making sure that we're tracking on the back end as we're doing our 9/11 report. So she's going to be working with our program area and our data team to develop some strategies. As you guys know, we have transferred from 7 to Inform. So we want to make sure that everything is migrated and is in the right place where it needs to be. So we've done a lot of work in addressing various issues that with the migration that come with it, everything from learning curve to training staff, to making sure that everything is there in the new system. So we're continuing to, and I almost want to say we're at the refinement stage of making sure that nothing is stuck, nothing is broken, making sure all forms are there. And so we're doing a very thorough check within the system. Now it's time to make sure that the way that the system was built, that it is measuring what it needs to measure. So that's what we're doing on this back end with Rachel. And she has worked with some of the other states like Arizona, Wyoming, Rhode Island, I think New York Line Agency, they all use Inform. And so, and she's also working within the Inform to see how they can support and make sure that they're lined up with the regulations and that everything's being captured in the right places. So like data is whatever you put in is going to put out what you put in. So like, I think she's working closely with them to make sure that the system is doing what it's supposed to do. And so I'm real excited about where we're going with Inform and the potential that we can have and begin to measure what we're doing in a way that is real tangible. And I'm not questioning the numbers. And so I'm excited about that. So we have a lot going on in RSA right now, but it's all good. So I'm glad to report that out. Any questions of me at this time?
The last part of the agenda is just any additional updates or information.
So I did want to ask a question on kind of the communication, internal policy or practice within RSA. It's something that's been coming up in the past few months. I had a client a few months ago that wanted her mom on a call with her with a counselor, and the counselor said the supervisor had to be on the call too, and that it was a practice of if there's any third party on the call, the supervisor needs to be involved. So I just wanted to get clarification on what the policy is or what the practice is.
I don't know of any policy on that says that that is the way that has to be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll follow up to see. I don't know if it's a past practice on, you know, making sure that how that's addressed, but let us follow up and then we'll get a response back to you, Chloe.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
you know, I understand wanting the supervisor on when I'm in meetings. I get that. And that's totally fine with me. This was a separate situation where it was just the mom and who was actually the guardian of the client. So
Okay.
yeah, just wanted to raise that as something that's going on that maybe
Okay.
could
Is it just,
look
is this
into.
a one-off or is it something that you're seeing more of, that the supervisor needs to be present?
I'm seeing it more and more in the past few months in particular. And we can talk offline if you'd like.
Please,
Mhm.
please. Yeah. Yeah, let's schedule a meeting so we can talk through. I actually have been wanting to spend, so in PA, I did spend time with the CAP director on a regular, I worked with Steve Pennington for years. So I'm used to, he was old, he's from the old school. When I came in, he told the secretary he had made a good decision, and it was like 2 months out. He was like, the honeymoon is over. So I'm just, yeah, just schedule time so we can connect.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Question about the NEON grant? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
One of the areas of data collection and reporting across agencies.
Say that again, Michelle.
One of the areas of focus for the NEON grant is data collection and reporting. So, DDS, well, you guys, in addition to the other WIOA partners like OSSI and DOES, we do all currently report on customers who employ second quarter, fourth quarter after exit, and then the median wages second quarter after exit. For this initiative, are you all thinking about the creation of a data sharing agreement? Like we tried to do some of this work before with DDS and DOES and DHS and UDC. I just wanted to know whether or not the NEON initiative is like looking at employment and wage data across multiple agencies, and whether or not it's your intent to try to establish a multi-agency data sharing agreement.
So the bulk of the NEON grant is really focused on developing a retention policy and developing a mechanism in place to make sure that we're supporting those with mental health issues into employment and kind of creating some level of wraparound services around them and the employer and getting in place. Now, what you're talking about, I think, is necessary when you look at so many cross-program things that we're involved with, that it's necessary for us to share data. I think it's something that we definitely probably need to explore on what a sharing agreement would look like, but that is outside the scope of the NEON grant.
Oh, okay, because I was reading Catherine Reinhardt Mello's email, trying to understand how you guys were going to move this work without those types of agreement, right? Not really sure. Anyway, maybe. Thanks for sharing. I know it's a priority. I was just trying to figure out what this is going to look like. So anyway, thanks so much.
We currently have a MOA that's in place with us and DBH.
Okay.
So with that, we have a system that is in place where referral is done, assessment is done on the front end, and then there's a clean handoff, and then the long-term follow along is done by DBH or providers that are currently in that system. Okay. We want to expand upon that and how we look at retention and develop a policy around that space geared around those that have co-occurring diagnosis.
Understand.
That means we are already tracking from our end. Like, we know what disability they have on the front end. We're able to identify that in our system. Because we are in partnership with DBH and have an MOA, we know that they have a mental health diagnosis. Yeah. We also know that we are tracking on the back end with second and fourth quarter. So we have
got it.
Right. So like, these are some of the things that we currently have in place that we're gathering. It just created an opportunity where we're able to get subject matter experts in to kind of consult with us on how to manage that, create the policy. We're also talking about benefits counseling. How are they managing their benefits? And internally, we're looking at how can we do it stronger. So here we have a benefits person that's currently in our system. We've been looking at potentially changing the flow and how we give overview to benefits as people come into the system. And of course, that one-on-one needs to take place, especially if they have Social Security, and how they're managing that when they hit SGA. So that usually is done one-on-one, but ideally you want to have that conversation on the front end before the, eligibility is done, plan is in place, so that we know that these folks want to work. And so, and then you're giving them all, so then they can really make informed choice on what they want to do. So we may be looking at how the intake, it may change somewhat. So I think that's why some of that delay is on certain policies is there, because the way in which we're serving, we want to make sure that at critical points, there's some touch points on benefits counseling with individuals, so that they really understand. Because when you're in multiple systems, as you talked about a little bit, whether, housing, TANF, SNAP, Social Security, like that's throwing over 3 apple carts that will make someone spin out of control trying to manage that for benefit. So then we have people that are like, I'm not trying to go to work. And then you have to have the conversation, if you stay here, this means that you want to stay in poverty. But if you worked, there's potential for you to go here. And then being able to have the conversation with people to say, maybe this level of employment is where you can go, or to really understand who really can't work. We have folks that the disability is too severe that they just don't have the ability to work, or just, it might be 10 hours, it might be 20, or it might be 4 hours a week, but really trying to capitalize and maximize people's full potential and whatever that may look like. Employment, in the community, independence. We want to make sure we're maximizing the quality of life of the people that we're serving. So that's another area that's part of the grant, where there's focus on us in our system and how we're currently serving, and maybe where we need to go and to insert benefits counseling as part of that conversation. So that's where the bulk of that grant. But if you want to have some conversations about how we put a team together and look at data sharing, I would love it.
Wonderful. I haven't responded to that email about the 2026 getting started, because I was trying to figure out what all this means. On our side, and thank you for the clarification that you just provided, it almost seems, to be perfectly honest, that, when our providers are conducting intake for individuals who are seeking to participate in integrated education and training, they want to improve their literacy and numeracy skills. They want to earn industry recognized credentials or entry-level credentials. They want to earn a secondary school diploma. What I was trying to envision in this project is, what role do we, your partners, play in the assessment of the needs of district residents to ensure that the goals that are intended with this project are actually achieved? Like, to your point, how are we counseling individuals at intake about identifying what their needs are? Are there assessments that could be administered? We administer a learning needs screening, and we also have a learning needs inventory, but we don't have a tool that assesses mental health. Is that something that DDS is envisioning that OSSI would incorporate in intake, DOES would incorporate in its intake, the Department of Housing, DC Housing Authority? Is that the vision, to develop a system where we're ensuring that some type of assessment is occurring, so that we're directing district residents to the specific entity within the system that best meets their needs and supports them in being successful in whatever that employment, that training, that education, service component might look like? Is that the intent for that kind of alignment across all the systems?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to.
Okay. Okay.
Because I think there's a data element, but then I also hear you talking to having some alignment across multiple programs and being able to assess individuals coming through the system to really identify their needs. I mean, we do have individuals that are probably in 2, 3, 4, 5 different programs.
Yes.
So what does that look like? The intake and the application process looks different at each agency. The criteria is different, the eligibility is different, but are there common things or common measures that we can ask and measure for? Or at least we can do case management on. Like there's some things that we probably could do from a state government perspective to address some of those things. I know some states have done a common or unified application, and we might not be able to get there depending on the funding streams. But like, can we have those conversations to kind of digest that and see what we can come with to kind of cut down the administrative burden of people accessing programs? I think that's a conversation we should definitely have.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. I will try to respond to the email now. You helped me out a lot too. Because I was feeling lost. I was like, oh my God, I don't really understand, like, where are we trying? I mean, I know about the systems building. We have really tried to do this for many, many years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
Many years. Yeah.
When you think about individuals that we consider high risk or individuals that have barriers to employment, it becomes cumbersome a lot of times. I'm also certified as an ex-offender workforce development specialist. So like we did an exercise where we had the returning citizen in the middle, and then we started thinking about everything they had to triage coming through the system: parole, back child support, fines to the courts, trying to find a job, trying to find housing, reconnecting with family, and trying to connect to the VR system. And you're like, we're saying that they're in compliance, and they're like, it's a lot. Everyone has all these different criteria, and they're like, I'm just trying to manage it. So, and then when you start looking at layers of things going on, like mental health, addiction issues, they're being cut off for supports that they were receiving in prison, and then they come out and they can't connect with a provider. It's a problem. There's a gap in services and how they're medicating themselves. It's complex. It's a complex issue that I think we need to definitely sit down and talk through to see how we can best serve individuals, especially with complex needs, across the district, because we have to have these conversations to make sure that we can still meet the criteria at the federal level and how we get our funding stream, but then how can we cut down some of that burden of what we think we need to really get down to what we really need for the customer, to make it a smooth customer service experience on the back end for them in order to access the services we say we want to do to help them. Because sometimes we could probably look like the burden to them.
We are.
Right?
I would say we get in the way.
So like that's the hard conversation. Like, how can we make it easier and still get all the data elements and everything that's required, legislatively in law, and the grants that we're getting in order to keep doors open and to serve them, and then still serve individuals in a way that makes sense, that's practical and streamlined as much as possible.
Just one more thing on the NEON grant, just because it's incredibly exciting. And I love the idea of focusing on job retention in particular. I think something that I've also been hearing from clients is they don't really know how to ask for a reasonable accommodation. So maybe including within the VR process and part of the counseling of these are your rights in the process. This is how to request a reasonable accommodation. And I'm happy to be a support if that would be helpful at all. I do trainings on your legal rights in that process. So happy to be involved in any way possible. But that is something that I hear from clients, is that they don't know what reasonable accommodations they could ask for, or how to do it, or how to respond when an employer just says no, right? So just wanted to bring that up. That's I love the focus this year with the Neon Grant. That'll be really exciting.
And it's hard because, a lot of folks with mental health really don't want to disclose.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
And toll, and then it's linked to performance and disability.
Yeah.
Then you have to kind of be like, you're going to have to come out the bag on this one, and you might have to disclose. But how do you do that and request the right accommodations?
And also, the employers having to keep that information confidential, and knowing that that it even has to be kept in a separate file, right? It's not something that you would just know, but knowing more about the process and kind of your rights throughout the disclosure and reasonable accommodation process. I do a lot of work on that too. So if I can support in any way, happy to.
Chloe, have you ever created or does DDS or RSA have a quick and dirty guide for district residents on how to ask? The reason I'm bringing that up, that's huge. We provide the comprehensive adult student assessment system. It's called CASAS. Licenses to almost every DC government agency: UDC, DOES, DHS, DDS. You guys have access to it. DCHA. So everybody around this in the city is using CASAS to assess the educational functioning levels and needs of district residents. In our assessment policy is a section on accommodations, but to your point, we haven't ever really thought about creating a customer-friendly, guide that helps district residents to understand what those needs are. I think it would be cool if something like that existed, even if it's like quick and dirty 1-pager or 2-pager webinar, 2, 3, 5-minute webinar recording that's posted on our websites, to let people know that they can ask for accommodations. Does it exist already is what I'm asking. Does anybody have that already that, we can maybe adapt or adopt, to create our own?
Yeah, so at Disability Rights DC, it's love that you mentioned that. That's something we're going to be focusing on this summer, actually, is creating 1-pagers of your rights for reasonable accommodations, and even like a template letter of what to include in a reasonable accommodation request. So we're going to be working on that this summer. Happy to share it with everyone. And yeah, particularly at RSA too for clients. I love the idea though of a video, like a 2 to 3 minute video of, because people learn in different ways, right? Sometimes a page of information is not the most efficient way to get information to someone. So that could also be really helpful.
We could probably use some AI, other types of ed tech tools to use some creative tools. Because the other thing would be cool, in addition to just a recording for individuals who have visual impairments, might be a number of ways that we can make that available. But anyway, I love that idea. I'm so glad you brought it up. You gave me some food for thought for us and what we're doing on our side relative to assessing the needs.
And I think too, that's good for the customer. And then I think there needs to be something that's also good for the employer. Because employer, you have to, we have HR staff and line supervisors that are implementing or supposed to assist in implementation on that. And a lot of times they just don't know what they don't know. Yeah. And so you have to have that conversation where we're not coming in to be the 88 police with them. Talk to them very practical, tell them where all the resources are, tell them things out, the possibilities, what they can do. Because a lot of times, with HR programs, they just do not train on accommodations. And so, very regulatory driven, that they see it and not really showing them that they can really be a support to the staff that are there and that need to be onboarded in that place of employment. So it's critical that we have something not only just for those that need the accommodation, but those that also need to implement that accommodation sides. Because,
Absolutely.
yeah, because it could be because it only takes one time for you to ask and get flustered with that whole process, or have the HR person not having an understanding fully and no compassion, and it's on. So then it becomes a environment that people really do not want to disclose.
Yeah.
Chloe, we use
mhm.
for some of our pre-ETS programming, we have some sessions around conditions, accommodations, and disclosure. And we use, and I'm drawing a blank in it, but I can send you the link. There's a series of videos that were created by people with lived experiences regarding the pros and cons of disclosure, when to disclose, how to request accommodations, that I find that at least the transitional youth we work with are really responsive to. So I'd be happy to.
Amazing. Yeah, please share.
Susan, are you able to share that with the group?
Yep, I can share it to everyone when I'll send the email to everyone on the call.
Thank you. That'd be awesome.
No problem.
Any additional comments, updates before we close out? Right. Well, again, okay. Again, thank you guys for attending this month's SRC. Thank you for letting me facilitate this time. And I believe Anjali will be back next time to do all the facilitation. But I feel like we had a really great meeting today. Charlisa will send out the recording. I think it's usually within 48 hours or so. So if there's anything you all missed, we can get it from the recording. And thank you guys so much and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.